We have some crazy revelations to go over in this video for the storyline of MW3 Zombies that is teasing Black Ops 6 Zombies. In the last video, I broke down the latest cutscene where we get a message from Dr. Gray that was recorded by a death meant to be shown to Ava Jansen. I already posted a video breaking down this cutscene that will be linked on screen and in this video's description if you would like to watch that after you are done with this video, but that was kind of my initial reaction to the cutscene, my very first thoughts, but I've had now longer, of course, to think about it, and there are some subtle details within this cutscene that I didn't point out the first time around, and I think I have concretely sussed out a lot more of Eddie Richtofen's plan, as well as regarding the sacrifice that Ava and the rest of Requiem made. Ravenov chose to finally show this clip to Ava, despite it angering her because he couldn't let it continue any longer now that she has met the entity. I'm going to provide a recap now of everything that I discussed within the last video, and it's absolutely crazy. So basically, I think that Richtofen had Samantha's egg/DNA extracted whilst he interrogated/experimented on her in Block 8 following her escape from the Dark Ether on Firebase C, which he told Dr. Peck to throw her in there when he was working as a mole in Omega. So it was always his intention for her to get these powers to be used for Project Janus. He similarly had DNA samples taken from Ravenov and the other Requiem heads, as Ravenov says in this cutscene, with or without their consent.
Requiem took genetic samples from all of us, with or without our consent.
After Richtofen set events in motion by manipulating behind the scenes throughout Cold War Zombies in order for Samantha to be trapped in the Dark Ether in sacrificing herself to contain the Forsaken, he had the Requiem heads apprehended and taken to Terminus Island upon shutting down Requiem. It's worth noting that the Forsaken is still the announcer in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies 2. What did Richtofen do with the Forsaken once he was contained in the containment chamber? Did the entity or the Dark Ether clone his voice, or is there something else going on here? Whilst he had the Requiem heads taken to Terminus Island, he had the strike team taken somewhere else, known as Black Site 13. And I wonder if this could be a similar facility to Block 8 to suppress Ethereum powers, but I think it's likely a separate location to where the Requiem heads are taken, with all things considered, considering that it's a separate bullet point on Eddie's computer screen. Previously, I had speculated about, I think they're probably one and the same, but like I said, the fact they are separate bullet points suggests otherwise, but at the same time, they very much could be the same place. Of course, we know Dr. Peck is heading to Terminus Island to rescue Requiem in 1990, 5 years after they were apprehended, which is going to be one of the launch maps for Black Ops 6 Zombies. This is going to be the initial premise, and I would assume that they will likely escape by the end of it. During the 5-year gap, whilst they were imprisoned there in an underground laboratory, Eddie likely continued to experiment on them and their Dark Ether qualities that they had due to prolonged exposure to Ethereum. It's at this point where they likely had their DNA extracted. A couple years later, Dr. Gray becomes impregnated with the biological child of Samantha Maxis and Ravenov via surrogacy, where Richtofen had Ravenov's sperm and Sam's egg he previously collected and fertilized them in a lab before inseminating them inside of Dr. Gray. It's unclear as to whether this was forced or Gray allowed this to happen. Gray was seemingly in love with Samantha during Cold War Zombies, so I'm not sure if Eddie may have manipulated her, as he did with Sam previously, to harness her powers into convincing her for this to happen. Maybe saying something along the lines of, it could weaken the veil between the Dark Ether, a living gateway to try and rescue Samantha. But Ravenov previously stated that they did try and rescue Sam in Black Ops 6, but ultimately failed.
Maxis sacrificed herself to end the outbreak. We promised we would find a way to rescue her. And when we failed, it was a blow. Some of us took it very hard. We vowed never to let this happen again.
So you're 0 for 2 on those promises?
We're not sure if this happened before they sacrificed themselves, or it's one and the same event. I would think the former, but it could be the latter. Ava Jansen is then born in 1993. At the same time, her shadow/mirrored self, the entity, spawns in the Dark Ether. As she has a direct bond with the Dark Ether, it's literally flowing in her blood. This could be due to many reasons. Due to Gray, Ravenov's and Samantha's exposure to Ethereum, it could be due to Samantha's extreme exposure to Ethereum, or further enhanced by Ethereum experiments by Richtofen, Richtofen, or even strengthened by the fact that her mother was trapped in the Dark Ether while she was born, allowing for a link. Nevertheless, regardless of the cause, she is a very powerful being. Since Samantha was exposed to the Dark Ether more than the others, literally being physically in there, this could be why her child possesses the same powers, and this could have been Richtofen's intention in giving her these powers to then manufacture a Dark Ether child. Not only did he use her to trap the Forsaken in the containment chamber, but he might have had a longer goal with Dr. Grey being born as a result of her powers. Dr. Grey explains in this cutscene that the connection she has with the entity is essentially allowing the Dark Ether to breach into our world and weakening the veil. I do wonder if Ava can connect to Samantha through the Dark Ether. Bear in mind, Samantha's whereabouts in the Dark Ether are still currently unknown, and seemingly have been unknown, as apparently her whereabouts were last known 6,776 days ago, classified under Project Janus, so around 2003. Now, I've speculated in prior videos that this date could have been meaning the day she managed to escape the Dark Ether, or potentially the day that they tried to rescue her, but like I said, it seems more likely that this could have just been the date when her location in the Dark Ether was last known, but her whereabouts will be key to Janus. But this means that Janus is still probably ongoing in present day, I would assume, which means Eddie is somewhere still around, which I'll come onto in a second, because it seems very likely he's alive. So Ava and the entity has to be one of the main goals for Project Janus, a super secretive project he was working on behind the scenes in Cold War Zombies. Janus literally sounds so similar to Jansen, but beyond just this superficial name and maybe coincidental link, we know that in Roman mythology, Janus is the god of doors and gateways, and is often depicted as having two heads, as in the two heads of Ava and the entity in each realm, mirrored. What's more is that we know that Project Janus requires a large gateway to be opened. On Mauer de Toten, the uber-rich stakeholders funding Janus, although their goals for it are likely different to that of Richtofen's, and he's just using them for a means to an end, just like he did with the Illuminati before in the old Ether. Well, anyways, they wanted him to use Valentina's gateway for Janus, but Eddie refused, stating that the time was not right, likely because both Samantha and the Forsaken had yet to be dealt with at that point, and striking too hot when the time was not right could have caused the total destruction of the Earth here, which would have of course been a disaster for both of them. He points out if the Earth's destroyed, that's obviously not going to help their stock price, because apparently that's all these people care about is money. Moving on, the gateway could be opened in the town in West Virginia that Richtofen had closed at the end of Cold War Zombies, and had a large wall begin to be constructed around it, as well as underground tunnels and more, as well as hiring lots of custodians and scientists. Many of the town's inhabitants were refusing to leave, stating their rights as American citizens. It's likely this could be a transit remake, which I've talked about before. We know Eddie was moving large amounts of Ethereum here too. Part of this Ethereum diversion could have also been for experiments on Requiem and others. Maybe Ava could have actually been born in this West Virginia town for all we know, or at Terminus Island. I assume she was not born at Terminus Island, considering they probably managed to escape in 1990 thanks to Peck's help. In fact, a new Miller radio was just added, which seems to give us part of the name of this map being a Liberty something. But I'll make a whole video soon talking more in depth about this radio specifically and this map.
It was a town by the name of Liberty.
My God. You were there. But you would have been so young.
The date of the recording from Grey is August 15th, 1996. This is likely right when she gives up Ava to the Jansens, her adoptive family, who works with the CIA. Before being adopted, it seems Grey, Ravenov, and maybe the other Requiem heads helped raise her for the first 3 years of her life. This is because she and the other Requiem heads are likely about to die, which is why she recorded this. This was likely recorded literally, maybe even the same day they died, if not very close to when they did. It's interesting because Requiem, the name chosen by Eddie to make it sound ominous, literally means a mass of the dead, and then they all seemingly die. It seems as if Eddie wanted this from the start. Their motto, Vicurimus Mortem, I probably butchered that Latin there, translates to we shall have conquered death, so I don't know if this is suggesting that they then may later return at another point, which could then explain why they spoiled this big story thread and probably one of the final events in Black Ops 6 Zombies inside of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, because it could be a red herring if they return later as a plot twist. Now, after that recap, I'm getting into the brand new information discovered in this cutscene that I didn't go over in that last video, so I didn't pick up on this the first time I watched the cutscene, as it was so shocked by the dialogue that I didn't pay any attention to what was actually on screen, but we can see what appears to be the device that we know the Requiem heads ultimately die in a bunker in underneath a hotel in Urzikstan. They are strapped to it, literally. What's more is this device looks like a miniature version of the mechanism that allowed Samantha into the Dark Ether and out on fire Firebase Z. Considering these events are literally about to happen at the time of a recording, it could be that this was recorded in said bunker underneath Urzikstan where they die. There are also computer monitors and other things like that in the bunker, so they may have been hiding out here, carrying out experiments. We know in the background of the room that they die underneath Urzikstan that there are many other zombies items such as the Cerberus Wonder Weapon from Our Desoten, Monkey Bombs, the One Field upgrades, and more on the shelves, suggesting that some kind of research was going on here. Alternatively, maybe it is suggesting that they might return at some point and they placed all of these items on the shelves so that when they return, they're able to defend themselves against the zombies. I don't know. Anyways, it could also be that this was recorded in one of the other bunkers in Urzikstan. In Warzone, set after Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, of course, because it's a prequel in 2021, in Bunker 5, zombies are in cryo chambers, clearly being monitored. We don't know if they were placed here after the events of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, or if they've been here ever since the 90s. I feel like this is Richtofen's doing though, and part of his experiments. What he wants though, I don't know. He could be creating these vials, super soldiers, drugs for powers or immortality, or something else. We know that apparently a DNA bomb killstreak is coming, and this was in Advanced Warfare. This of course isn't canon to the new universe, but Manticore, what was in the DNA bomb, created zombies and exozombies, so maybe the DNA bomb could be a larger version of the Ethereum canisters to create zombies outbreaks for war purposes. We know that's what Zakayev wanted. I have no idea though. I could see this potentially being a goal for Terminus Outcomes, although they're just kind of funding these war efforts, not necessarily wanting them directly.
When I have enough enriched Ethereum to secure my father's legacy, you may sell whatever remains to your buyers. I don't know, I'm no scientist, but I know I'll get when I smell it. I'm not above an early retirement. Now, look. I know you've got people here to talk to about this sort of thing. I'm sending you a package with some samples. Take a look. Tell me if you think there's a market for it. You stand to make it. Your cut. Greedy bastard. 15%, same as ever. It's only the beginning. Those who stood in our way will be eliminated. Enriched Ethereum to hit our targets. London, Paris, Washington, D.C. We sit back and watch them tear each other apart.
Or this could be a goal of the shareholders funding Eddie's Project Janus. I don't think it is a goal for Eddie himself. As to why they sacrificed their lives, as we learn in the cutscene, Grace says the high Ethereum exposure is a danger to the world and is killing them. As to where Peck is during this cutscene though, I don't know. Assuming he does rescue them on Terminus Island, does he then carry on with them through the rest of the maps? Is he still involved by the point that this is recorded? Is he still alive, or does he die at some point? And Dr. Peck was the one who created this Ethereum stabilizer portal on Firebase Z, so I'm wondering if he too also created the miniature version, or at least assisted in it, but Gray could definitely have done the same, or Richtofen or people working for Richtofen. Maybe when he says he's going to collect some old friends, he becomes involved in this. I think that due to Gray birthing Ava, this, in addition to her weakening the veil, could be further destroying the barrier between the worlds, and their sacrifice is a necessary one. If they didn't sacrifice themselves, they would have likely died regardless, as Gray seems to have aged considerably in the 11-year gap between when we last saw her in 1985 and The Forsaken. She looks so much older, a whole lifetime has passed. This is clearly not natural aging and is excessive. Ava also has a hallucination of Weaver and the rest of the Requiem heads who died with purple eyes, showing their dark ether infection, but this could mean that this device allows their souls to be left in the dark ether as undead zombies, leading to the possibility of them returning. At the same time though, whilst Gray has aged considerably, it's been almost 30 years since we last saw Ravenov, and he has aged extremely well. Ava even comments on this in the prior cutscene, and he just laughed it off, saying he has good genes.
I am still fighting.
And here's the thing, you shouldn't be. That was 30 years ago, and look at you.
I have good genes.
Oh, that's a crock, and you know it. What was the focus of Requiem's Ethereum research?
Dr. Jansen. Ava.
He honestly looks even younger, or at least the same age as Gray in this cutscene, despite her filming this 20 years ago. So this is the theory I have regarding the device. So what I'm gathering is that the Requiem heads sacrificed themselves to quote-unquote give up their essence to allow Ravenov to live longer to watch over Ava and ensure she's safe.
We are dying, but we can ensure that someone will watch over you. We agreed Ravenov would be the best choice, especially given his connection to you. I know the Jansens will have given you the best life, but giving you up at only 3 years old, I am so sorry.
This quote, I initially thought they just chose him to look over Ava while she grew up with the Jansens, but now I'm thinking there's more to it, and he was given immortality or at least extended life to ensure this was the case.
Then deliver swift assault on Outbreak's epicenter while Terminus reels. We did similar in Kabul. This could work.
Kabul? What do you know about Kabul?
Pardon. It is nothing. Forget.
Specialist Ravenov, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan was 40 years ago.
I'm saying you have a good plan.
He was chosen by them as the best candidate to do this. Maybe any of them could have been the one to do so, but they chose him specifically. Although I'm not sure how much longer he's going to live for, because it was previously foreshadowed that Ava would kill him in her hallucination, and in the latest Miller radio, it even alludes to him dying too.
Now, that means you can't go dying on me.
I'm good at keeping promises.
We promised we would find a way to rescue her.
So you're 0 for 2 on those promises?
I only hope this is my last dance with darkness. I just don't know how many more monsters I can slay.
Maybe in the final story mission, Ava and the Entity recombine and kill Ravenov. After the latest cutscene, she is very hurt for being lied to her whole life, and it's at this point she could have given in to her temptation. After all, if Ravenov has been given some kind of immortality, or at least an extended life, then maybe he needs to be killed off just for the narrative to even move forward, because you can't just have him staying around forever. Maybe he's still able to die via natural causes, but he just doesn't age, or just ages way slower. Maybe Eddie too wants Ravenov out of the picture by this point. I don't know how these vials allow him to live longer though, because how is it that Ethereum can make you live shorter or longer, because it's seemingly the reason why Grey is so old and why they have to die. We know time passes slower in the Dark Ether and you basically don't age whilst in there, so maybe there's some kind of connection there, or maybe it's just that the characters are essentially giving their essence or life force to him, so he has the combined lives of them all when they sacrifice themselves. I think the device itself they used to sacrifice themselves was created by Richtofen, and this was potentially his suggestion. I think Richtofen's goal is to potentially rescue his son or wife, who may have accidentally been killed in a house fire after the failed CIA assassination attempts by Weaver before the events of Cold War Zombies, who was given this intel by Samantha. And this could be a part of his goal, but not the only one. I say this because for him to be a target for the CIA, he had to be doing something to warrant that. Maybe he was already enacting his plan even before this event, or maybe the CIA were just trying to get rid of people with knowledge of the Dark Ether, and this could explain why he has scars on his face and throat due to that failed assassination attempt from Weaver. Bear in mind, during Cold War Zombies, Weaver, Sam, the rest of them, they never learn the identity of the director of Requiem. They don't know it's Richtofen. Samantha never finds out, and that's probably going to happen in Black Ops 6. And I don't know what's going to happen there, but this could all factor into Richtofen's motivations in trying to not only rescue his family, but get revenge. But like I said, I think whatever plan he was doing has been happening since before this event, so it's likely got more to it. But despite this, somehow, after these events, Richtofen would go on to be a high-ranking official in the US government and essentially had himself planted as director of Requiem. So how he managed to weasel his way in and go unnoticed is beyond me if previously he was a target. I wonder if maybe hypnosis could factor in. We know that some people with Dark Ether powers had hypnotic powers. Maybe that's got relation there. Maybe Requiem have had other people as well, similar to Sam, with Dark Ether powers, and she wasn't the only one. In the Modern Warfare 3 Zombies intro, there are 2 vials missing from this device where they sacrifice themselves, so maybe one was given to Ravenov and the other to someone else. Probably Richtofen to allow him to live longer too, I would assume, but it could potentially be someone else. I think Richtofen is definitely still alive in the background of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. Ravenov was not the only one to still be alive to look after Ava. The question is though, did the others know Richtofen would get a vial too, or did they think only Ravenov would? He is still carrying out Janus in modern day, and the Entity/Ava has to factor into this end goal. I think Richtofen will be in the final cutscene, or at least we'll get an idea of his plan for this from the final cutscene. I think whatever happens in the final cutscene will be a big plot twist to tease Black Ops 6 Zombies and the sequel. The Entity has the ability to bring people into the Dark Ether, but what if she can also bring souls out of there and return his son Samuel 2 and 2, and that could factor into his goals. There's also a lot more going on too, but we're starting to make progress in our theories. What's more is we know there was pushback on Ravenov being in Deadbolt due to his past.
At least this time, we had a plan in place. Operation Deadbolt came together overnight. My colleagues seem capable enough, even if they do not trust me.
You don't trust him?
Why would I? I've never heard of him. Hell, he doesn't even exist as far as I can tell. No family, no service records. The Russian government doesn't even know his name. And I swear my source got nervous when I asked.
But someone high up in government, or even the president themselves, gave him clearance and was even the one to recommend him to begin with. In fact, Green didn't even have a choice. She had to accept him. I think that, once again, this was Richtofen's doing, setting events in motion like chess, just like he did throughout Cold War Zombies.
Yo, Russian guy with more scars than personality can do whatever he damn well pleases, but not Crystal. Ugh. I'll tell you, our fearless leader is really starting to... What the hell? Are you recording this?
I feel like Ravenov is probably unaware of Eddie's involvement in this, though. I think Eddie needs Ava and the entity to reform. Maybe he thought Ravenov being there to seemingly look after her would eventually mean all of the truth to Ava would come out and anger her, making it easier for the entity to tempt her in. Alternatively, maybe he wanted Ravenov to look after Ava authentically, and this wasn't a dubious act, but only time will tell. We know that Jack Fletcher worked on Terminus Island and named his group Terminus Outcomes after it as such, so it wouldn't surprise me if he too was assisting Richtofen. Richtofen may have been the one to let Victor Zakhaev know of the Ethereum vials to begin with. Again, maybe this was because he needs Ava and the entity to reform, and by Zakhaev activating the vial, it weakens the walls between the worlds, allowing the entity's presence to tempt Ava to grow stronger. Alternatively, maybe he wants to stop the entity. Maybe this is a byproduct of his plan he didn't need. He just wanted the walls weakened, and so he could have had Ravenov to look over Ava authentically and had him part of Deadbolt. But let me know your thoughts and theories below. Actually, if we look at Fletcher's bio, the CIA operation was carried out from 1991 to 1993, and that's when he was on the island, so this is seemingly after 1990. So Ava could have been born there, and maybe that's why it ended in 1993, maybe that was the end goal. However, this would mean that when Peck arrives, he fails to actually rescue them, and maybe he's captured as well, but that wouldn't be a good story setup for the game. Alternatively, maybe he does successfully free them, and then Richtofen hires further guards onto the island to not allow any further escapants or anyone further to infiltrate the island. Or maybe Richtofen requires something else on this island to be carried out, even if Requiem are no longer there. There's so many possibilities here, it's hard to make out, of course, unless the Forsaken teaser where it says 5 years later is inaccurate and a longer period of time has passed. Finally, I want to re-go over the lyrics from the Easter egg song from D Machine alone, because I think they are so clearly a double entendre, whilst also about the Forsaken / Orlov and Medvedev at the time of Cold War Zombies, but I think similarly they are referring to Requiem's sacrifice and Ava Jansen / the entity.
Our volunteers died by machine and living doors lie unforeseen now.
I think this is referring to the door being Ava's connection with the entity, allowing the Dark Ether to pierce our world.
We're running from becoming one.
I think this is referring to the entity luring Ava to become one again, very similar to the parallels of Dr. Monty / the Shadow Man, once being one entity, and the Apothecans and Keepers seemingly then reforming on Tag the Totem before being banished.
Project Janus to an end. On our destiny to die. Warn no one, no warning. Our memory just fades away. He'll keep it all for him. Imagine a free answer with no one in his way. Dividing as he conquers.
So maybe Richtofen didn't have a say in their sacrifice. He wants all of the answers to himself, but it really could be either way, especially because I think he took the other vial. Could it be they tried to give Ravenov this extended life and sacrifice themselves without Richtofen's knowledge, or could it be the other way around?
We'll keep it all for us. Imagine every answer with no one in our way. Dividing as we conquer.
These lyrics then later changed to we in the song, as if to say now we are in control of the narrative and the answers, as they sacrifice themselves. I did a video before breaking down this song more in depth, but from the Modern Warfare 3 Zombies perspective now. Like I said, I think it was a double entendre. I think they've planned out Ava and this stuff way in advance. And I'll leave a link to that video down in this video's description. And in that video I speculated the lyrics were teasing Ava and the entity being a reflection of each other, and now it's confirmed, it gives more credence. So I'll leave a link to that in the description. Make sure you check it out after you're done with this and my prior prior videos I've got on the channel. I've seen lots of people in my comments confused about what's going on in the story because people haven't been focusing much on it, and I've done videos on almost everything going on, so just browse through my channel. I've got videos explaining more in depth Project Janus and other stuff like that. I'm trying to keep you up to date as much as possible, but unfortunately it's taken a while for people to start to dive into this dark evil story. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.